Composting is a great way to create your own soil from organic food scraps from your kitchen. The scraps, if mixed with soil, exposed to oxygen and water, will break down into beautiful nitrogen rich black earth that you can use to feed your garden. It's also good for the environment. It's a lot easier than you might think, and it doesn't need to be stinky or take up a lot of space. So, in order to compost, it's best to find a little corner of your yard that can be out of sight, and you'll need some kind of a breathable box or ideally a wire cage of some sort. You could even make something like this out of sticks. It just needs to be able to hold soil and scraps and to get water and oxygen. So, I use a tall tomato cage for mine because it's small and I don't have a big yard and space to compost. So I tuck mine behind a bush where only I can see it if I go back there. So what you'll do is keep a little bucket or jar for food scraps on your table that you can regularly empty into your compost bin. The key to composting, especially in the city or a suburb, that I didn't understand is that if you don't want it to be stinky, then don't put any animal products in your compost bin. If you keep it just plant material, then it won't stink in your kitchen and it won't stink at all in your yard. So, to get it started, you need to put some nice moist soil in your compost bin. And then you'll start creating a layered parfait of sorts of food scraps, and then soil, and then food scraps, and then soil. And these layers will start to break down. So check it sometimes to make sure it doesn't dry out because moisture will keep the compost process going, and you might break it up occasionally to get more oxygen to it. But over time it will start to break down and you can dump the bin and mix up your compost with a tiller or just a rake, and you'll have beautiful compost that you can add to your garden. In your compost bin, you can put dead leaves or other plant material as well. Keep in mind that the more woody the material, the longer it will take to break down. I don't have a chipper, so I don't include branches or wood in mine, but you could. If you have a lot of space where you can keep your compost away from people, you could also put animal products like meat scraps, etc. But just be aware that animal products are what make it stinky and you can attract other animals, but animal material will absolutely break down just like plant matter. A note about manure products for fertilizer and in as part of your compost, animal manure products are an excellent source of plant nutrients. They have all three of the major plant elements, often being highest in nitrogen, but just be aware that they need to be used with caution because they can burn plants if not used properly. The main key is to give your manure a little time to break down. So you can work it into the soil when it's fresh, but you won't want to plant right into it. If you work it in, it needs a little time to decompose. Or you could set it aside to have time to decompose and then work it into your soil later. So, all types of manure are beneficial, but some are better than others. So, be aware that some types of manure, especially from cattle and other field grazing animals, can contain weed seeds that will be a nuisance in your garden. You can also sometimes get steer manure which has a high salt content that can dehydrate your soil. So be aware of that. Poultry and rabbit manure tend to be gentler and are really great for the garden. So again, with all manures, the rule of thumb is to just give your manure enough time to decompose and it will be an excellent natural fertilizer for your soil. So really don't overthink it. Find a little spot in your yard where you can dump food scraps, throw some soil on it, and give it time, and eventually you'll have some nice, beautiful soil that you can use to feed your garden.